Good morning. Welcome to the Janet Sisler Show. I'm your host, Janet Sisler, and I am really happy to be here. We are broadcasting to you from the thriving metropolis of Humble, Texas, a little town right outside of Houston. And as I said, this is the Janet Sisler Show. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in today. Let's get started on the show. As many of you know who have been following me for the last number of years, I've been studying the mind, body, and spirit connection for more years than I care to remember, maybe 30. I just seem to never get tired of learning something new about the body and to really understand how intricately and finely tuned we humans really are. We are truly the most magnificent creatures on the planet, even though I know we like our dogs and our cats and our horses and all the other animals. But as humans, we are intricately and fine-tuned and hardwired together, okay? But we all, as finely tuned as we are, have the capacity within us to fine-tune our own systems, to let it be maybe Janet Sisler 2.0 or maybe even 3.0. There's always upgrades that we can make to our functioning and to our skill sets. Scientists are discovering that we have within us the capacity to heal a broken arm or a broken leg, but we also have the capacity within us to repair and to heal our brains. These beautiful brains of ours are capable of a constant threshold of learning, and through learning and through changing, we commonly refer to that as neuroplasticity. Okay? We are innately endowed with the capacity for self-healing, something I think sometimes that we forget. And whether we realize it or not, we are always in a growth and change mode. But as we're going to talk here on the program today, many of us do like to stay within what we like to think of as our comfort zone. And we like to stay with what is familiar to us. So what is the definition of neuroplasticity? Well, I have some notes here that I'm going to be referring to back and forth throughout the program today. Neuroplasticity refers to our brain's ability to adapt or to change or to alter through experience. In everyday speaking, neuroplasticity is referring to our ability to adapt, to experience, to whether those adaptations or changes are positive or negative, but ultimately we want to change the way we experience something, and we want to learn and grow through the process. All the way back to our birth, believe it or not, neuroplasticity has been a part of our world. And it is playing a critical role in defining how we experience ourselves as well as the world around us. Really, through my lens of perception, is pretty cool. The trick, if you really want to call it a trick, is to know how to harness neuroplasticity or the concept of neuroplasticity for our own individual healing and our growth. This whole process just simply opens up a whole new revelation, not just in our health, but our entire abilities to heal our physical selves as well as our emotional selves, our spiritual selves, and certainly our mental fitness. The opportunity for neuroplasticity is that our brain's capacity to change across the course of our lives and our being is huge. It enables our internal systems to learn, to change our lenses of perception, and to create new dialogues within our mind-body-spirit connections. It harnesses our innate healing systems and allows us to upgrade those systems on an ongoing basis, day in and day out. One of the most fascinating people for me that I have had the opportunity to read, and that I think really left an indelible mark on humanity, is a gentleman by the name of Viktor Frankl. And many of you probably already know who Viktor Frankl was, but he was an Austrian neurologist. He was a psychiatrist, an author, and certainly a bit of a philosopher as well. And he is famous for having written Man's Search for Meaning, probably one of the most popular books to ever come across my lens. But he's famous for many reasons, as I said, but one of the things he is most noted for saying is between stimulus and response, there is a space. And it is in that space that we have our power to choose our response. And it is in our response where our growth and our freedom happen. To me, this is powerful stuff. So as many of you know that have followed me on the program for a number of years now, I'm an emotional freedom techniques practitioner. I'm a tapper, and I have an office here in the local Kingwood area. To me, EFT is a perfect complement to understanding how our mind's understanding of past experience informs our now. Take this one step further. How does our present inform our abilities to move forward in areas that are of interest to us? The vast majority, say some 90% of how our brains perceive and experience our present is informed, of course, by our past. Put another way, if we sense a potential threat in our now that is reminiscent of our past, well, our brain, specifically the part called the amygdalas, will start to take over. Even if the past is no longer a threat to our now, our brains still register a incoming threat on your now. So in turn, you might very well find yourself reacting from a space of fear, maybe rage, or even withdrawal from your thinking brain. And if that is your pattern, neuroplasticity can certainly help you understand that you are reacting in your now to something that you perceive as a threat from something that happened in your past. Boy, that's a mouthful. Did anybody get that? We're getting ready to come up on a break. When we come back, we're going to pick this concept of neuroplasticity back up, and we will take it from there. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. Right before the break, we were talking about how we can sometimes react in our now to a perceived threat that really might not even be a threat, but we might think it is, simply because of what has happened in our past experience. It takes about 75 milliseconds, 4 times faster than the blink of an eye, for your brain, specifically these two beautiful amygdalas up in your head, for that amygdala to really diagnose the incoming sensory information from your environment that alerts you to either take action, run for cover, and to assess whether or not the threat that you perceive as incoming is real or is it a false alarm. And we can receive that incoming stimuli through our awareness system that we commonly refer to as our 5 senses. And that data or sensory data is then transmitted to our body, to our brain, for evaluation. 4 of the 5 senses, touch, vision, taste, and hearing, deliver incoming information to the thalamus, which is another part of the brain that delivers at an incredibly rapid rate. It's usually within, I believe it's 50 milliseconds. That is incredibly fast. The 5th sense, that being smell, it is so vital to your human survival that it has its own delivery system, its own direct link to the amygdala through your olfactory complex. It bypasses the thalamus altogether. The thalamus is commonly referred to as the post office. We get an incoming sensory information. It goes to the thalamus, and the thalamus then directs it to whichever sensory receptors you need to evaluate the incoming threat. But the sense of smell is so critical to the human survival that it does not go through all of these regulatory channels. It goes straight to the brain. Now, I recognize this is a lot of information and it might be quite as fascinating as watching paint dry, but I kind of like it. So believe it or not, your amygdala is your biggest and your most fiercest protector. I like to call the amygdala Amy. I like to give her a name. And she is your biggest fan, and I know that you didn't know that you have a body part that is your biggest fan, but rest assured, as of today, you know that you do, and let's name her Amy. So, Amy's biggest job, and I think she does it really well, is to protect you and to ensure your very survival. Even if this means she sacrifices little things for you, like maybe the quality of your life, in the process of keeping you alive. Amy is always asking the big three main questions that speak to the human core values. Number one, am I safe? Am I lovable? Can I be successful? These three questions extend to all of us as individuals in our survival capacity. As humans, we fundamentally need each other in order to survive. As a result, of course, our brains are hardwired to engage in a host of behaviors. This might be good, and maybe they aren't. But these core values must be met in order to ensure your very survival. One of the things that I pay particular attention to with my clients when they walk through my office door is to make sure I create a felt sense of safety, which in my work is a necessary requirement for creating any kind of neurobiological permissive to even start to release the learned impact that my clients have well experienced through their trauma, their drama, and their stress. There are multiple ways to create this state of being for my clients, but certainly the mechanism of touch is large. And one of the things that humans need in order to self-soothe is a feeling of safety. And that is created in an internal way. We generate it internally. Our bodies produce electrochemical responses that signal safety. So let's play for just a minute. If you were to ask yourself the question, what does my body think feeling safe looks like? What does it feel like? How does my body let me know that in this moment in time I feel safe? So, another way to ask this is, what are the psychological yardsticks that you use to have a created sense of safety? Usually when we feel safe, our heart rate slows down, our breathing becomes more smooth and more regular, and cortisol, the stress chemical, is not being continually released into our bloodstreams. You might have some compassion on your radar, a dance in your step, a spring in your step, a smile on your face, joy in the heart. We all know the difference in our minds and in our body's response system between feeling safe and feeling like the stuff is fixing to hit the fan. When that fixing to hit the fan is about to happen, our body's ready itself for battle in one of the 4 F's of trauma. And the 4 F's, as we all know, are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And there may very well be more that we don't know about which option we are going to choose until we are in that position, when we are in that tough spot. The 4 F's are essentially our survival reactionary modes. If your body senses some incoming information that the body says, trouble ahead, once again, your thalamus, and Amy, your amygdala, make their 75 millisecond assessment, and based on this rapid assessment, the body goes into full-scale confrontation or assault with the perceived threat. That's a mouthful right there. We're getting ready to come up on a break. When we come back, we're going to pick up this conversation about neuroplasticity and our fight, flight, freeze responses, and we'll go from there. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, I'm Janet Sisler. You can follow me on Facebook at The Change Whisperer. My phone is 713-446-8900. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking through the breaks. This is the Janet Sisler Show. Right before the break, I gave you my contact information. You are welcome to reach out and call if you have a question. You can email me at janetsisler, tappingintochange@gmail.com, or as I mentioned earlier, you can follow me on Facebook at The Change Whisperer. Right before the break, we were talking about the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, all the F's, the 4 F's. So if we are in fight mode, we are preparing ourselves for an aggressive confrontation. If we are in a flight mode, then obviously we are trying to run to safety and to get away from whatever threat we perceive is in our environment and in our now. If you freeze, which is sometimes called disassociation, then you might well become disconnected with what is happening in your now, in the present moment, and you might even be immobilized until the danger has passed. If you are in the fawn mode, then you might very well be trying to appease your aggressor or the source of the threat, even at the risk of your own life. And certainly it might very well be at the risk of your own self-worth. Now, I know that this is a lot of information, and I hope it doesn't feel like a totally rapid fire in succession, one thing after the other, but I do think that sometimes stuff like this background information on the 4 F's is like looking under the hood of a car. It's a bit more than just kicking the tires, but I think you get the idea. So our brain is hardwired to pay attention to our painful past and stressful experiences and moments. Some people call this negativity bias, and yeah, perhaps so. But the good news is that there are different ways that you can upgrade your system to your reacting brain. Neuroplasticity can be a really good friend. When you understand that you have choices in your capacity to upgrade your system, your past won't have the same hold over you. Healing your past, learning how to manage your stress and your anxiety, even manage all of your known and unknown emotions is possible. Building resilience through your new neural pathways is possible. No matter your age, your skin color, your degrees of education, or anything that attempts to categorize humans into different classes of people, out the window here. It is just simply not helpful. What I have found most helpful to my clients, and I use this stuff on myself as well, is to have an understanding, to have an awareness of the signals that my body is constantly giving to me. And by extension, obviously, to you. Our neurological system is always working. It's kind of like an internal GPS. It always knows where you are. And once you become attuned to your own body's signals, you will have activated your own internal radar system. Sometimes you don't know in your mind's eye why something feels a little off about a person or an experience in your environment, but for some reason, your gut knows. Your best wise counsel, and what I try to tell every single person, is follow your gut. If you feel something feels off, follow your gut, because it is going to usually be on point. One of the things that I like most to share with my clients is to develop a sense of awareness of what it is that they are internally in their gut, in their heart. What are they really feeling? The next step is to develop a relationship with you and your body. You and your body and your mind. This is hugely important. Something is bothering clients or they wouldn't be coming into my office for help. So much of the time, though, we simply get into a routine of life, and from that point forward, we seemingly operate on some kind of autopilot, whether it's helpful or whether it isn't. Once again, as we started the show, we talked about staying in our mode of comfort in what is familiar to us. When things are going along swimmingly, staying in your seat of comfort is a-okay. But when your autopilot hits a bump in the road, that system isn't really helpful. And when I see clients, it's usually because they've hit a bump in the road. It is then that we develop a map and a path forward. We make a plan and we develop steps to move forward. And developing a strategy for stress reduction is the best place to start in everyone's life. Understanding that we all have an ability to make choices seems obvious to us when things are going well, but when your life is in the weeds, sometimes clarity seems to have left the building. So the next time that you find yourself in a state of flux, take a moment and recognize, what am I thinking and what am I feeling right here in my now? So, for everybody listening to the program today, let's play together. Put your feet flat on the floor. Take a couple of breaths. And pretend you're on a break from work, even though you might be around a conference table. Or if you're lucky enough to just leave the building and go and spend a few minutes just by yourself, this can be helpful. Think of 10 small choices that you can make within the next 5 minutes. If you can't think of 10 things in the next 5 minutes, think of 5 things in the next 5 minutes. Simple choices. It could be something as simple as, where do I want to sit? What do I want to wear? Do I want to wear a smile, a frown? I'm not really here in my whole person, but I have to put a smile on it. What do I want to eat for lunch? Where do I want to go for lunch? What music would be helpful for me to hear right now? How can I really change my environment? These are just a few things that I jotted down right off the top of my head. These ideas provide a reference that between stimulus and response there is a space, and it is in that space where you have the opportunity for growth and for freedom. Your point of power is always in your now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not 5 minutes from now. Your brain is always on. And you do not have to have the same brain in 5 days that you have today, or in 5 months or 5 years. But until next time, chop wood, carry water, and walk the earth. Be a blessing to all the peoples of the earth, including yourself. Good morning. Welcome to the Janet Sisler Show.